Justine Griffin. I am a Twitch streamer and YouTuber. I play quite a few different instruments, violin being my main instrument. I also sing, play guitar, piano, and bass, and I do live looping 3 days a week on Twitch. Right now my schedule is Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I stream live looping, improv, covers, some originals as well, and then I post videos on YouTube once a week doing the same YouTube covers and improv, Twitch highlights, things like that. I do that once a week, and I also do some live shows occasionally as well. What kind of violin do you play? So I play an acoustic. This is my absolutely favorite instrument right here, this acoustic 4-string violin, but I also play electric as well. It just kind of depends on my mood and the songs that I'm playing. I have a 5-string electric, and I used to have a 4-string before that. And this one is my main instrument though. What kind of bow do you use? I use a wooden bow. This is my bow that I've been using for pretty much my entire life. I've actually been thinking about replacing it recently, looking into some other options or just having a second bow, but this is the tried and true wooden bow that I've had forever. Do you prefer distortion or wah? I would have to say when it comes to effects between distortion and wah, I would have to choose distortion, because I think there's so many different ways that you can use distortion. You can use like a fuzz, you could use an overdrive, you could use a hardcore intense metal sounding distortion. You can really do a lot with it, and you can use it, I actually, with my electric violin and my electric guitar, even my bass too, I put a little tiny bit of distortion on just to kind of add some grit to the sound, just the tiniest little bit. I find that with electric violin, sometimes it sounds a little too buttery and soft, and so if you add just the tiniest little speck of distortion, it can add grit to your sound and make it sound really cool, kind of a little bit closer to how an acoustic violin sounds. But I also think that wah has its place as well, depending on the song. What is your favorite effect or combination of effects, and why? I would say my favorite effect is probably reverb, because I know it's boring, but it's the most versatile effect. You can really do a lot with it. You can add just the tiniest little bit of reverb like this, or you can really go crazy and add so many layers of reverb, which can it can make an instrumental part really fit into a song and really blend in, but it can also add a really cool effect. Like if you're playing spooky music, it sounds cool on violin to add like a ton of reverb. I also like to add, like if I'm doing spooky music, you can add a lot of this kind of stuff too with a ton of reverb. You can really play around with a lot of reverb and have so much fun when it comes to spooky music. Oh, and you can do this. You sound like the scary music in horror movies. As far as the combination of effects, I love reverb and delay together. With EQ, I always EQ all of my instruments, no matter if it's violin, voice, guitar, all that stuff. EQ is like a staple. So I would have to say my favorite combination is reverb, delay, and EQ. When it comes to more expressive playing, I would say distortion would be my next favorite. How did you start your Twitch channel? So I started Twitch back in April of 2019. I was kind of playing violin as just a hobby at that time. I've been playing violin since I was 10, and I did classical music all the way up through high school, and then I took a break actually because I wasn't interested in playing classical music anymore. So I was kind of just playing here and there as a hobby, and my brother and my boyfriend, who's now my husband, was saying, you should check out Twitch. See if you want to stream on Twitch, stream violin. And back then I was like, wait, isn't Twitch just for gamers? And that's pretty much all I knew it for, was just gaming, you know? So I explored Twitch and found out that there's musicians on Twitch. There are IRL streamers, real life, vlogging type of stuff, podcasting. It's just art, it's endless, the type of things you can do on Twitch. So I explored the music category, found some people that I thought were inspiring, from violinists to singers to DJs, basically people, they were doing live concerts on Twitch. So I thought, what could I do? I could do violin improv because I had started practicing playing improv instead of classical music maybe 2 years before I started streaming. 1 or 2, maybe 1 year, because I saw someone doing it and I thought it was just the coolest and I wanted to learn to play by ear. So I did, and I started streaming. I was so nervous when I first started because I thought, how is this going to work? I'm just playing by ear. Is this even going to sound good? You know? And so people would request songs and I would just play on top of them. So it would range from any genre, from pop to country to screamo metal to jazz, and like I would just try my best to play on top. Even sometimes it was just instrumental stuff where I would just play over top and try to find cool violin parts that I could add. And I did that for quite a long time, maybe 6 months, maybe a year. And then that's when I decided that I wanted to start being a solo performer and be in control of what I was playing. I wanted to be able to practice and play something that I had thought through, you know, and really made my own. So that's when I started playing guitar, and I learned a little bit of piano. I got a single track looper, the Boss RC1, I think it's called. Just a single track little Boss pedal. And started learning how to loop guitar so that I could play violin over top. And then, you know, one thing leads to another. Then I ended up getting a bass guitar, actually from one of my community members, gave me a bass guitar and an electric guitar. And then I started singing as well at that time. And so that's when I upgraded from the Boss RC pedal to Ableton Live, which is the DAW that I use now. And that allowed me to play all of my different instruments and do complex loops and make really interesting covers of songs. Which leads me into the next question. What DAW are you using and why this one? I use Ableton Live, and I use Ableton because I have so many different instruments to plug in. I thought of it like I had 2 routes. I could do the Boss pedal route, you know, the floor pedal, or I could go the Ableton route, which would allow me to play several different instruments. I can control all of them with faders. I will show you my setup so you can see. This is my setup right now. I use a lot of different MIDI controllers for Ableton. So basically I can record my guitar, bass, piano, all of the things, and I can control the volume levels with the meters or with the faders. And I can even use my keyboard for not just sounds like this, you know, a traditional piano sound, but I can also make interesting synths and things like that, which Ableton also allows me to create beats like that. And then this MIDI controller over here is just another basically version of that, so that I can add more and more loops. So I can loop vocals, I can loop violin, I can loop synthesizers, piano, guitar, bass. I chose Ableton because it was the most versatile DAW for that. So what is your Twitch config? I'm assuming by config you just mean basically how I have everything set up. So I have all of my instruments going in through a Focusrite 18i8 interface, which would be my microphone, violin, guitar, bass, piano. And then I use MIDI controllers to control Ableton like I just showed you. And then I actually use an SB-diff cable to loop back the audio through Focusrite Control, which allows me to send the audio from Ableton into OBS Studio, which is how I stream. So once I get into OBS Studio, that's how I can record and film myself and then simultaneously stream to Twitch. Are you looping songs on Twitch submitted by your viewers? Are you improvising them? If you can explain, how are they working? Or how are you working? Okay. So I used to do that. I used to take requests from viewers and just improvise over top and just play whatever comes to mind to try to accompany the song. That's how I started. And then as I progressed and wanted to learn more and start playing more instruments, I started learning songs and actually practicing. And I use a site called Streamer Song List, which is basically my entire library of songs that I know how to play. So that's where I keep my lyrics and my chord sheets and all that stuff, and little notes for myself like BPM of a song, key of the song. And so I use that, and that's what I reference when I'm performing a song. And that site actually allows viewers to request through that site. So it's linked to my Twitch channel, and they can request a song. They can see all of the songs that I know how to play and request it through the Twitch chat, and then it'll pull up in Streamer Song List for me to know, okay, so this user wants me to play this song. And then basically when it comes to the way I perform songs, I do mostly covers and some improv where I just kind of make things up from scratch too. But when I'm doing a cover, I start with a basic chord progression of the song, and then I have my lyrics and notes for myself about the key and things. And I just start with that basic chord progression and just start layering different instruments, all, I guess you could say, improvised or by ear. So I'll just kind of listen to what I have and say, okay, I want to play or whatever on bass, and then I'll start, adding some violin to add some textures, piano, a simple drum loop, and then sing on top of that. Hold on. Sorry, something in my eye. Also, I improvise violin solos and guitar solos on top of the songs that I perform as well. That's why I love looping, because it allows me to still perform a song and add all the different parts and make it sound like a full band is performing the song. And then I can still, mute my microphone for a second and bust out a violin solo or something, and then go back to singing. My eye is dying. Okay, so moving on. How many instruments can you play? Can I or do I? Because I think there's a difference. Okay, so on Twitch, I play violin, guitar, piano, bass, vocals, finger drums. I would say that counts. And I sometimes play mandolin, which you can actually see it's right there. So 7? But I actually know how to play cello and viola. And I learned stand-up bass back in the day. And then triangle, if that counts, and the tambourine, the shaker. I actually keep my shaker wrapped up in my violin cleaning cloth because it's too loud. It dampens the sound a little bit. Makes it sound more pleasant to me. I think that's all. How many strings do you have in your acoustic/electric violin? So on my acoustic, I just play a standard 4-string acoustic violin. And I've actually always wanted to buy a 5-string acoustic, but I just never have gotten around to it. I started out with a 4-string electric violin, and then I ended up selling that and then buying a 5-string electric, which is what I have now. I play that sometimes. I don't play it nearly as often as I play my acoustic, to be honest, because I prefer the sound and the feeling of the acoustic over the electric because it has more resonance. So I do have a 5-string electric as well, though. Why did you start the violin? Tell us your story. I started, to be honest with you, I don't remember, because I was only 10. But I started, it was the 4th grade. I guess I remember a little bit. There was a music class in 4th grade. It was the first time at my school being introduced to a music class. And I started because they gave a couple different options of instruments. There was the recorder, which I played for a little bit, and this is making me remember. So when I played recorder, that counts as another instrument that I know how to play, I guess. But they would give you these belts based on the level. You would get like a white belt and a yellow belt, and then if you were really good, you got the black belt. So I guess technically that was my first instrument. But then I saw somebody play violin, and I just thought it was so pretty. and it just looked so elegant and nice, and it sounded so pretty. So that's why I chose the violin. And yeah, started at 10, and I just really liked it. And also, my parents helped a lot. They pushed me, but not too much. They pushed me just enough to stay with it, and got me private lessons, got me into orchestras, symphonies, all that kind of stuff, and outside of school. And yeah, so I stuck with it all throughout high school, and then I took a break for a little bit at that point and then came back to it. Tomorrow, you have to learn another instrument. Which one do you choose? Oh, God. Okay, the options are harmonica, cello, bass, or a different one. Okay, so I already know how to play bass, so I think I would say cello. I love cello. Cello is so beautiful, and I've always loved the tone of cello. It has such a rich and deep, full sound. I've always loved cello, so I think I would probably learn the cello. But I did actually try cello once when I was in middle school, and decided that I didn't want to play it, and I liked violin better because it was smaller and easier to carry around. But I always loved and preferred the sound of the cello over the violin sound. Your best violin memory / memories. Oh, this is a hard question. I don't know, to be honest. I guess some of my best violin memories have been recently playing on Twitch, because it's just like, it's so rewarding to me. I guess just anytime I go on stage and play something that people get really excited about, I love the feeling of people watching me playing. And and really you can tell when people enjoy it, and that's just probably my favorite memories are those, seeing people in the crowd, just really enjoying it and thinking that that it sounds really cool. I would say that's probably my favorite. But what violinists / artists / musicians are / were inspiring you? So there's somebody on YouTube actually that I found through one of my community members. Her name is Ada Pasternak, I think is how you pronounce it. I actually don't know how to pronounce her name, but she is an amazing violin player. She does improvisation, and she just plays very well. Andrew Bird is another one. He's an amazing violin player. They're probably my two biggest inspirations. Oh, and Lindsey Sterling, of course. I love Lindsey Sterling's style of playing. I love how she's brought violin into the pop music scene. So yeah, Lindsey Sterling is probably my biggest one. And then as far as other musicians, I am inspired a lot by just kind of a lot of different artists. I would say Dua Lipa is one, for pop music, and Bob Moses is my favorite artist of all time. I love Bob Moses. Rufus Du Sol. Who else? Zed. I love Zed. Martin Garrix. I'm interested mostly in like pop music, EDM, and that's why I love Lindsey Sterling so much, because she kind of just came up and made her own genre, which was really cool, that fit into pop and electronic music and stuff like that. And so that inspired me a lot to start playing different styles of violin and pursuing a sound that was more similar to the music that I like to listen to, which for me is like, electronic and pop music. Do you prefer to follow a sheet or improvise? Oh my gosh, improvise times a million. I love improvising. I actually got kind of tired of following sheet music because it always felt like I was boxed in to this specific way of playing something, and it had to be exactly as it was written, exactly the right, not tempo, rhythm. It always had to be the exact rhythm, and everything just had to be so perfect. The dynamics had to be exactly what was written on the page. But for me, I like to come up with that stuff on my own, and I like to listen to the song and get into this like zone, I guess, where I'm thinking about the music and I decide when the dynamics should change, or maybe play with the rhythm. I like to play with kind of thinking of the rhythm like a falling leaf. That's kind of like zoop, zoop. That's kind of a weird description, but basically warping the time in just in the most tiny way to kind of make it so it's not so perfect. And maybe that's because I started off playing classical music where I had to play exactly in time and it could never, be expressed in a different way. I guess I really enjoy the expression of improvisation. Do you have perfect pitch? No, I don't think so. I think my dad might actually, because he was tuning a banjo once without a tuner. Just he's like, and just tuning it. And I thought that was crazy because I'm like, how do you do that? So I don't know if I do, honestly. I don't think so because I can't exactly name a note unless it's a violin note. If it's being played on a violin, I know exactly what notes they are. But I think that's just from familiarity with violin and just knowing what they sound like. But overall, I think I just have pretty good relative pitch. What is the first song that you learned on violin? Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember the first note. I was way too young, and I don't remember that. But I do remember the first time that I got a book of movie soundtracks. That was my favorite thing to play when I was a kid. I loved movie soundtracks and Irish fiddle music. Those were my two favorites. So, tell me if you recognize this. This was my favorite one to play. That was my favorite, and I also loved The Lord of the Rings. That was my favorite music to play too. That was my favorite. Movie soundtracks were my favorite, and Phantom of the Opera was my absolutest favorite. What was your first CD/vinyl/audio tape? The Offspring. That was my favorite. It was the Offspring Greatest Hits album. I was in 5th grade, and this kid, his name is Jeff. I still remember. His name is Jeff, and he let me borrow the CD, and I stole it. I never gave it back because I loved it so much, and I feel kind of bad. Now that I think about it, I feel kind of bad about it, but I loved that CD. That was my favorite. Another one of my favorites, this is random, but the Titanic soundtrack and Phantom of the Opera soundtrack. Epic. I love those. Do you remember your first stream? How was it? How could I forget my first stream? It was April 2019. It was, March 31st, 2019. Me and my husband, he was helping me set it up, and I remember just having my laptop, looking into the webcam, just being like, how does this work? And just being so confused about how to do anything. I didn't know how to set anything up. I leaned on him so much, actually, when I first started streaming, because he's really good with computers. I am okay, but I don't really like doing computer stuff that much. So it was really confusing for me at first, and I remember fast forward to actually getting all my audio working properly, which I think ended up being my second stream, so that would have been April 2019. And I remember seeing my view count, and I had 10 people. 10 people were watching my stream. And it was terrifying. It scared me. But it was also really exciting because seeing people in chat, but it was terrifying. And it's funny because the longer I stream, the more I got used to it. And then now I stream for, anywhere from 500 to... I've streamed to 20,000 people before. That's insane. Insane. And yeah, you get used to it. Luckily, you get used to it. What advice can you give a musician who would start on Twitch? Okay. Be yourself, for one, because you will attract an audience. I think there's an audience for everyone. So I think that being yourself is probably the most important thing. And two, even though you don't have the most expensive fancy violin microphone or something, I actually started with this kind of a pickup, which doesn't sound very good through an interface. It sounds okay, but you don't need the fanciest gear. You don't need a really expensive interface or a really expensive microphone to sound good. I would say just start with what you have and just trust that it will get better over time, because your community will help you and support you to improve your sound and improve your gear over time. That's how I got everything that I have, is from just streaming and asking, doing donation goals and things like that. And as my community grew, I would, say, I'm trying to buy this thing. This is how much it costs. And people that were able to and wanted to support that, they do. So that's how you can improve your sound and your setup over time. That's how I got a fancy camera and all these things to have the quality that I have now. Okay, are you more rock, classic, or jazz? I don't know. I would say pop. Pop is probably my genre that I guess I have these influences from all different genres, to be honest. I have some country influences. I have some rock influences. I definitely have some classical influence in my violin playing, because I played violin, classic violin, for so long that even when I try to sound pop or whatever, sometimes it still has just a little hint of classical sound to it. Dog or cat? Dog. Definitely a dog. I am allergic to cats, sadly, because they're so cute. I would have a cat if I could, but definitely dog. Work. Day or night? Day. I'm not a night owl. I do like the flexibility of being a musician, to where if I'm not feeling like playing music right when I wake up in the morning, I can work on other things and I can come back to it later, and I can play at night if I want to. So overall, though, I would choose daytime. Apart from Twitch, what is your favorite social media? YouTube. YouTube is my second favorite. Do you prefer pizza or salad? I prefer, that's a hard one. I would say, depending on my mood, sometimes I want pizza. Like if I'm really hungry, I want pizza, but if I'm not that hungry and I just want something fresh, I would pick a salad. So if I had to choose, I think I'd pick pizza. Okay, one food you think people should try? Okay, I don't know if this is my favorite food to suggest, but the first food, if I could talk, the first food that comes to mind for me is shakshuka, which, if you like Indian food, it's amazing. If you like cilantro and cumin, like the chili flavor, like that you taste when you eat chili, have shakshuka. It's really good. It's like a tomato breakfast kind of thing. It has tomato and a bunch of seasonings like cumin, and then you put cilantro on top, and you crack a couple eggs on the top, and you cook it in a cast iron skillet. I'm like drooling just thinking about it, I'm not even gonna lie. You put a couple eggs on top, and then you put it in the oven till the eggs are cooked, and then when you take it out, that's when you put the cilantro and little toppings on it, and then you eat it with toast. So good. I'm literally drooling. What picture is on your phone lock screen? It is a picture that I took in Costa Rica. It's beautiful. I love the ocean. I love the ocean so much. So it's the ocean in Costa Rica. What is your favorite pastime outside of music? Honestly, I'm a really crafty, like artsy person, so, and I also like to change things all the time. So lately I've been into jewelry making. I actually made all these bracelets right here myself. And this one too, I made this one. Simple bracelets and jewelry and stuff. And I love fitness. Lately I've been into yoga, but I used to do weightlifting before that. Just as of the last week, I started doing more yoga. I like to go hiking with my dog, and all different kinds of crafts, honestly. I like to paint. I like to knit. I like to make clothes. Those are my favorites. Last words from me are, I hope that if you're interested in streaming or getting into YouTube, I encourage you to do that, because I think that a lot of live music performances, especially since COVID, have started turning more towards the internet, and I think it's a really great place to meet like-minded people and perform for people and grow a community. It's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. So if you're considering doing it, please check it out. Please try it out. And also, don't be afraid to try improvising. If you're a classical violinist, try out improvising. I think it's so much fun and it's so expressive, and it really changed my whole outlook on playing violin. It changed the way I feel about it. So definitely check that out as well. And follow my Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/Justine Griffin. I stream 3 days a week. Currently my schedule is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, which it does change every couple months, but I always keep it updated on my channel. So follow me there for notifications of when I go live. I usually stream about 3 to 4 hours at a time on Twitch with my live performances, and I take requests as well. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Justine Griffin Music. That I upload videos to YouTube once a week doing covers, improv, violin, singing, kind of a whole bunch of different things over there as well. And follow my socials: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. I also have a Discord as well, which I will provide the link for. Everything is also linked on my Twitch channel. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast.